Hello and welcome to another episode of MacStories Unwind. Today's episode is sponsored by none other than Sequel, the media tracking app. Federico Vitici, how you doing today?
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm enjoying struggling with a new setup at my desk that I'll talk about more elsewhere. But yeah, it was a little hard getting started today, but we're here. We're ready to go.
Yeah, and we're doing a special episode today, I think.
We are. We're doing a very special episode. We're going to talk about our favorite TV shows and movies from 2025. And we've got some picks here. I haven't even looked at your picks yet. Actually, you haven't even written them in. So it's going to be a complete and absolute surprise to me.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at you put together a note with all of the TV and movie picks that we chose during the year. And I've just been sort of drafting those ones. And I think obviously knowing me, I haven't really watched movies this year. Our TV time is literally just TV shows.
Yeah.
And I don't have time for movies. Movies are a big commitment for me. And Sylvia is not a huge movie person. And when we're together, I don't want to impose on her watching a movie. So instead, and obviously when I'm alone, I just allocate my time to video games. Or just tinkering around with apps and AI stuff.
The usual stuff.
So I have a bunch of TV picks. So if you have any movies, I think you should go first with the movies.
All right. I do have some movies. And one thing that I think the pandemic changed for me and a lot of people is that I don't go to the movie theater very often anymore. But I have gone, I think I went once in all of 2025. And I saw Fantastic Four First Steps at the theater. Which was a really great movie. It was the thing that I liked about it from, I think a lot of Marvel movies in recent years have kind of suffered a little bit from feeling like work to try to keep up with the plot lines. But I think Fantastic Four really stood on its own as a standalone movie, even though it had some of the overlap and it's part of a new universe and all this stuff. I'm by no means a Marvel cinematic universe expert, but I really enjoyed the action, the drama, I think a lot of the performances in this were really good. And most of all, I just liked kind of the retro technology feel to it. The setting of the movie being kind of like 50s, 60s, yet having technology that, we obviously don't have today. And it was a good plot line for that. So really enjoyed that one. I was kind of a fan of superhero movies this year, I guess, because I like the Thunderbolts too. Thunderbolts being another Marvel movie that is a ragtag group of kind of secondary superhero wannabe characters that end up becoming the new Avengers. It was just fun because they were kind of imperfect heroes in a lot of ways, and I find that more compelling than some of the traditional superheroes that Marvel has had on the screen in recent years. And then my third one that I liked a lot was Alien Romulus, which is kind of set in between the first two movies on the timeline and focused on a new set of characters who stumble upon a spaceship that has these aliens on it. Same kind of plot where you go up into space and you're being hunted down by these awful face huggers and chest burster aliens that run around the spaceship hunting down the humans. But it was really well done and a lot of fun to watch and pretty scary. But when it comes to the end of the day, I'm going to give my top pick to the Fantastic Four because I think overall that was my favorite movie of the bunch.
Nice. Okay, thank you for the movie corner.
Yes.
Together.
This episode of MacStories Unwind is brought to you by Sequel, the media tracking app for all your Apple hardware. If you're anything like me, you've got movies you want to watch, shows you're keeping up with, games in your backlog, and books on your list, and it's scattered all over the place. Sequel brings your whole entertainment universe into one beautiful app. Here's how it works. The app has a unified search across everything. Just start typing and Sequel pulls the best results across movies, series, games, books, and audiobooks. You can even search for actors and directors and explore everything that they've worked on. And here's a really neat feature, the Magic Lookup Share extension. You're scrolling through a website and someone mentions a movie or a game, just share the link to Sequel, and it uses AI to identify the media titles on the page for you. No manual searching required. Set release reminders, and you'll never miss a movie premiere, season drop, or game launch you've been waiting for. Sequel also shows you where to watch with deep links right into apps like Apple TV and Netflix, so you can go from I want to watch this to actually watching it immediately. The app lets you track episodes individually and keep your watch next queue automatically updated. As soon as a new episode drops, it's right there waiting for you. You also get helpful details like trailers, cast information, and even whether a movie has mid or post-credit scenes. And if you already use Tracked, you can easily import your existing watch list and history. Plus, you can organize your media into collections, create ranked lists, themed lists, and even mix different media types together, like every Marvel title in one collection. Sequel syncs across the iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and it's also available on the Vision Pro. Sequel's core experience is completely free, with unlimited searches and tracked items. Listeners can unlock everything with an optional Sequel Plus subscription. New subscribers can enjoy up to 30% off their first year of Sequel Plus with the code UNWIND. This offer is valid until January 31st. So use that code in the App Store. Again, to get up to 30% off your first year of Sequel, use the code UNWIND or use the link that we'll have in the show notes. Sequel. Track it now, enjoy it later. Our thanks to Sequel for the support of MacStories Unwind.
So I want to mention TV, and I think I'll mention first some older TV shows, not from 2025, that we watched or we started at the end of 2024 and then we finished in 2025. And these are not TV shows that came out during 2025 at all, but just we really enjoyed them. So I wanted to mention Friends. This was used to be a thing many months ago on Unwind. My first proper watch of Friends. We absolutely loved it, and as I mentioned at the time on the show, I understand. Having seen Friends, I understand how so many of the traditional sitcom tropes now come from Friends. And
that's true.
I was really sad and nostalgic when we finished watching Friends, and I know I'm gonna rewatch it from the beginning at some point, because it's like it's a comfort series. Like it just feels like hanging out with friends after a while. I also wanted to mention this is a recent one that we started watching, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yes.
We are now working our way through season 3 of 5. We are really, really liking this one. And it's scratching the same itch that we wanted to have scratched after finishing what will be my TV show of the year that I will mention in a few minutes. And what else? I think these are the only two that I wanted to mention, like older stuff from before 2024. I will give you some picks from 2025. Easy stuff first. Running Point and Nobody Wants This, both on Netflix. There's a recurring theme in the TV shows that we see. We don't really see heavy stuff. Sylvia and I, when we're together, Sylvia really likes just like comedy or comedy drama or sitcoms.
Sure.
We both work a lot, and we basically are together only in the morning when we do stuff around the house and we walk the dogs or we go do some shopping. But then we see each other in the evening and we have dinner, and then we have a couple of hours before we go to bed, and we just like to see easy, light stuff. Well, Sylvia especially, like, she's a light sleeper and she doesn't want to see like scary or anxious or stressful.
Yeah, that only makes it harder to kind of drift off at night when you're kind of have your heart pounding right before you try to go to sleep.
She just wants to relax. And so Nobody Wants This. I recently mentioned season 2 that came out on Netflix this year. It's a classic rom-com about a podcaster played by Kristen Bell, who has a podcast about just like her romantic life and sex life. and she falls in love with a rabbi
Right.
played by Adam Brody of Seth Cohen fame from the OC teen drama 20 years ago. And this is a classic rom-com setup where will they one day they fall in love and then they break up, and then against all odds they end up back together, and season 2 picks up where season 1 left off. I don't think season 2 reaches the same highs of season 1, but it's been renewed for a season 3, and it quickly became one of the most watched TV series on Netflix. So it's enjoyable if you're looking for a rom-com and you like those actors. And nobody Running Point, I also mentioned on Unwind. It's a sort of like workplace comedy where the main protagonist, she becomes, again, against all odds, she becomes the president of this family-run basketball team. And so it's a story about sort of like female empowerment, the idea of a woman directing and managing a basketball team in a very highly male-dominated industry.
That's
and
a very
the
good show.
sexism that comes with that, and sort of some of the prejudice that comes with that. It's enjoyable, and it's been renewed for a second season.
Oh, good.
I will mention my 2 favorite TV shows of the year. Number 2 would be Severance, season 2. I loved it. I didn't think, like, I was concerned that season 1 was just a blip and that they couldn't possibly make the show even darker or weirder, but they did. And there were a couple of episodes that were slightly off, kind of on the slow side. I don't really like. I understand why a lot of people are really into like movies or TV shows where it's more about taking in the vibe and the environment, when there's not a lot of dialogue and it's more about observation and it's more about like describing the situation. There were a couple of episodes of Severance like that were really slow and nothing happened, but sure, they contributed to the world building. I didn't really like those, but overall, I think, especially the ending of season 2, it makes me really excited for season 3, and I don't want to spoil it, but I think they did an excellent job sort of building on top of the baseline of season 1, like what's up with Lumen, what are they doing at Lumen, how can people really possibly undergo this experiment where they split their brains in two with their professional lives and their personal lives. But I think they really created something special, and this is a TV show that I watched by myself in bed when Sylvia was sleeping. It really was that good, and my sleep schedule was all kinds of destroyed when I was doing that.
I bet it was.
My favorite TV show of the year was season 4 of Hacks on HBO Max, and Hacks is a TV show about a really popular comic played by Jean Smart. She's a comedian, and she's a stand-up comedian. And back in season 1, the whole deal is that she gets paired with this up-and-coming young writer, Ava, and they become this unlikely duo. And through the course of the 4 seasons, Deborah, the main protagonist, played by Jean Smart, Deborah Vance, she goes from having a stand-up residency in Las Vegas to hosting a late-night show, for example, or going on tour. And that's all thanks to this collaboration with Ava that brought a completely new perspective and fresh jokes and a completely different attitude to Deborah. And in season 4, what I really liked about it is that it starts with this huge fight between Deborah and Ava, to the point where Ava was blackmailing Deborah because she found out that Deborah slept with the head of the network for the TV show. And so she was kind of blackmailing Deborah, like, unless you make me head writer of your new late night TV show, I'm going to reveal everything. And she doesn't. And she's made head writer sort of begrudgingly at first, but then they reconcile. And there's this huge moment. I guess I'm going to spoil season 4 because it's really important. So skip ahead if you don't want to know. Deborah, she basically takes advantage of a live recording, a live televised recording of the late night show to reveal the sexism and sort of the corruption of the TV industry. And she gets obviously fired for that, but Ava quits along with her. And it's a really powerful moment that sort of underscores the friendship between these two. And season 4 ends with Deborah now out of a job. Nobody wants to hire her anymore because obviously the network is making it impossible for her to work because they also have a non-compete contract. And so she goes off to Singapore and she goes on this like alcohol and bender where she's like just drinking her life away and having this stand-up routine through a loophole in Singapore. And she's just reusing the same old jokes. And they spend months there with Ava. And Ava is like, what am I doing here? I'm wasting my life. And Deborah is clearly like, she's not thinking right anymore.
Yeah.
Until in the final episode, TMZ, I think in the US, or a fake version of TMZ, breaks the news that Deborah Vance is dead, where actually she was just retired in Singapore. And she sees this headline, and it's like her life comes back to her, and it's like, I'm not retired, I'm not dead, and I'm not retired, I'm coming back to America. And so season 4 ends with them packing all their suitcases and going back to America because Deborah does not accept the fact that she gets treated like an old person who's retired. And she wants to prove that she's still relevant. But how will season 5, which is being filmed right now, pick up? Because Deborah still has a non-compete clause with the network. So technically she cannot work in the United States. So we'll see what happens. But I really love this TV show, and season 4 was excellent. And that's my top pick for the year.
Yeah, that sounds like a great way to end season 4.
Yeah.
All right, Federico, I have 3 shows I want to mention. The first one is Task, which I recommended several weeks ago, which is on HBO Max, which is a show about FBI agent Tom Brands, who's a former Catholic priest, which that in and of itself is kind of an interesting setup for a show where you don't really think of priests becoming FBI agents, but he did, and he has tragedy in the past of his life. So he's grappling with family issues, while at the same time trying to bust a drug ring that is in the Philadelphia, rural Pennsylvania area, where a couple of garbage men are going around and stealing from these drug dealers, which is setting off a lot of tension among the drug dealers and other people who are trying to find who's stealing from them, and the public and the law enforcement that's trying to avoid a gang war between different rival groups that are dealing drugs in and around Philadelphia. And it's just a really interesting and dark kind of show. It's funny. I mean, you watch a lot of comedies. I watched a lot of fairly dark crime and spy dramas this year, but it's super well done. Mark Ruffalo is the lead on this show, and he does a fantastic job playing the former priest turned FBI agent. And I highly recommend it. It's pretty short. It's like 7 episodes that are about an hour each. The second show I want to mention is Slow Horses, because this is one that's been on Apple TV now for several years, and it just keeps getting better. It kicks off with one of the misfit MI5 agents being targeted by a mysterious group for assassination, and you don't know why. And that becomes kind of the theme of the rest of the season, where there's this shadowy group that's trying to destabilize the UK government. And of course, the Slow Horses are at the center of both the action, because it starts with someone trying to kill one of them, and also the ones trying to solve the mystery as to what's going on and prevent the destabilization of the government. And I think this one was probably one of the most balanced seasons so far, where it really did a nice job of starting off with a really great hook that just kept building throughout the season to the final conclusion. So that one also top notch. But the best show that I watched this year was a one-off. It's based on a book, and it's called Say Nothing. It's all about the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And it's based on the true story of Jean McGonigal, who is a mother of 10 kids, who's widowed, and she goes missing, becomes one of the disappeared, which was a thing during the Troubles. And so this all takes place in 1972, and it follows both Dolores and Marion Price, who become rebels who are fighting the British government in Northern Ireland, and what happened with them, and with Jerry Adams, who was one of the key figures of the IRA at the time. And it follows their life. And the story comes from a book that I'll link in the show notes that I've heard is an excellent book, that the background of which all came after Dolores Price died and released all the information about what she had done for the IRA, but didn't want to do so before she had passed away because of the things she had done. And it to me, it was just a really nice and interesting look into a very troubled part of Irish history that, I don't know how true to the actual events it was, but I thought it gave a nice feel for what that time was like in Ireland. And great drama, great story. And it's on Hulu. If you have a chance, I highly recommend watching that one.
Nice.
That is my top show, Federico.
Okay. So Hacks and Say Nothing.
Yeah.
Are top TV picks. Okay.
Yeah, that's a nice little balance there between comedy and drama, because obviously Say Nothing is a pretty heavy show because it's about a lot of death and violence, but it's also an important part of Irish history that I enjoyed learning more about.
Yeah. Okay, well, what's next on our list? Video games and music.
Yeah, exactly. We are going to start with video games next week, and then we'll move on to music in the third week. In the meantime, do check out the show notes, because we'll have a MacStories Unwind Deal there for everybody. Of course, links to all these shows as well, so you can check them out. And thank you again to Sequel for making this episode possible. Federico and I are over at MacStories.net. You can check us out there, or at Club MacStories. Just go to club.macstories.net if you want to learn more about what the club is all about, because it's a lot of fun. We do great newsletters. We have a Discord community, special podcasts, and all kinds of things for members. And in the meantime, Federico and I can also be found on social media. Federico is at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHN VOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.